We could not be marking 15 years of Value Voter Summit if it were not for our loyal sponsors who have partnered with us to bring the movement together to champion faith, family, and freedom. And my next guest is more than a sponsor. He's a dear friend and a familiar voice to any of you who listen to one of the 180 plus stations on the American Family Radio. He also serves as president of the American Family Association, a national organization that advocates for biblical teaching on morals and values. Tim Wildmon, it's great to have you with us.
Hey, Tony, good to be with you today.
How are things in Tupelo, Mississippi?
We're doing well. We, as you say, have 181 radio stations. We have our app is for AFR is just growing by the thousands each month, and so we got a lot going on here from our bunker in Tupelo.
And Tim, the mission of the American Family Association is more than providing great music, which you do on many of your music stations, more than just providing talk on their talk radio stations. I mean, you have a mission to reach this country for Christ.
Yeah. Tony, my dad, Don Wildmon, he's still alive, by the way. He's 82. He's retired, but he started American Family Association and then later American Family Radio for the purpose of reaching primarily the Christian community with what was really going on in our country. We started in 1977. My dad was a pastor, a Methodist pastor at the time when God called him out of the pulpit into this ministry here. And we have a news division. The dad had a prophetic view back then, and others did too, as well during the late 70s era, that we would need a communications tool to go directly to the Christian community and bypass the media, the liberal media. And so that's one of the main reasons why we exist, is to get the word out about what's happening in our country, along with some music and great Bible teaching. But basically the bread and butter of what we do is news and information, talk programming, information, shows like yours, for example, Washington Watch with Tony Perkins each day. This is getting straight to, as I say, primarily the Christian community, because as we see all around us, what's happening with the social media, censoring Christians and conservatives. We know what happens in much of the mainstream media, with just a few exceptions. They censor the message of Christians and conservatives, or worse, they try to make us appear to do and stand for things we don't, by calling us, for example, hate groups. So we're a communication vehicle and an activism vehicle for the Christian community in America, as is, Family Research Council and other groups.
Well, Tim, there's no question that your father had a prophetic vision for the nation, because we are at that point, as you've just clearly articulated, that the mainstream media shutting off the Christian voice. But it was your father. I remember back when I was actually in the business sector and in the public sector in law enforcement, listening to your dad and reading some of the books that he did. He was one of the early pioneers in this movement. In fact, one of the reasons that in a few years back, we recognized your father with the Leadership Award here at the Values Voter Summit. So we are very grateful for the American Family Association, American Family Radio. How can people find out more about being a part of your network of radio stations, and being more involved in the activism that you made reference to?
Thanks for asking, Tony. By the way, just real quickly, what you're referencing there, about Dad's prophetic voice. Again, I'm not saying he was the only one. There were several other Christian leaders that God raised up, especially in the mid to late 70s, that we would all recognize their names. But Dad used to warn about something called secular humanism, and where this new religion, if you would lead us. And he would lay out scenarios, and what he, in fact, I went back and read some of his writings from the late 70s and early 80s, and everything. Back then, you would have said these things can never happen in America. And yet they did, because secular humanism has outgrown Christianity as the major dominant influence in our culture in terms of philosophical ideas. So anyway, I could talk a long time about that. To answer your question, You can go to AFA.net, American Family Association, AFA.net. We have several 100,000, I don't know, 600,000 or 700,000 people that get our action alerts, which call for people to take action on issues, political and cultural and otherwise. AFA.net, AFA.net. You can get our radio there, our app at AFR.net, AFR.net. We have a news briefing that goes out once a day, again, to several 100,000 people at onenewsnow.com. So just check out AFA.net or AFR.net, and you'll see multiple ways you can get engaged and involved with our ministry to help make a difference in impacting the culture for Christ, for righteousness, for biblical truth.
Tim, I want to go back for a moment to your father. I've had the privilege of working with your dad for many, many years before he stepped down and you became president of the American Family Association. But I recall, this is again before I was involved, I was actually pretty young, when he went on and was actually debating on many of the secular leaders. I remember Phil Donahue. He went on to that program, and that's a blast from the past talking about Phil Donahue. But to juxtapose that to the day in which we live, where there's no conversation, the left wants to shut us down, and you see that firsthand.
Oh, absolutely, Tony. This new quote progressive movement. They're not traditional classic liberals in the sense that they want a free exchange of ideas. They want to debate issues. They want all voices to be heard. They believe in the First Amendment of the Constitution. No. These folks do not believe we're legitimate human beings. By we, I mean we Christians in particular, conservatives in general. We are so our ideas are discredited, are illegitimate. They call us Nazis, for goodness sakes. So do you have a Nazi enter the discussion on a debate on a topic? No, you don't. So you shut them down. We're at a critical juncture in our country right now on how far this is going to go. You have the big social media giants who are controlled by these progressives. You have, so I mean, and that's, they control a lot of what people are exposed to, and so they shut down speech. So this is a very difficult issue that this idea of allowing people to speak freely for religious liberty to go forward. Because what they're going to do, they're going to, if these people ever get in control, absolutely, the White House, the House, the Senate, in particular, those three institutions, if they control them all at one time, they're going to come after groups like American Family Association and Family Research Council. They're going to say stuff like, you can't have any more radio licenses because you're a hate group until you sign this document saying you will not criticize homosexuality anymore, for example. That's what they do in Canada right now, by the way. So I mean, this is a real threat to our First Amendment, to religious freedom. We see what's going on out in California right now with the state government out there cracking down on churches indefinitely, telling them to shut down, or you can only meet outside, or whatever the case may be. So they're just the fundamental freedoms in our country are at stake right now in the immediate, and Christians need to take action. What's staring ahead of us right now immediately is the election. We got to get the right people voted in, the Senate in particular, the White House. I would put that obviously on an equal plane with the Senate. Those two institutions, we cannot see them fall into the hands of the secular leftist, or there's going to be real trouble for us ahead.
So Tim Wildmon, that kind of brings it in for a landing, what we've been talking about, to pray, to vote, and to stand. And so we need Christians all across this country to take that challenge, to pray, to vote, and to stand for biblical
Amen.
Truth, pray for our country, and not back up in the face of opposition. Tim Wildmon, thanks so much for being a part of the Value Voter Summit, and thanks so much for your friendship, and I assure you, you'll get your pralines at Christmas on time this year.
Well, I was going to ask you about that and put you on the spot in front of everybody, but you voluntarily said my candy pralines will be here on time.
You'll get them. You'll get them.
I write that down. Tony just said. Write that down. Okay. All right. Thanks, Tony.
All right, Tim. And folks, take the challenge to pray, vote, and stand.